Several months ago, we were invited to take a tour of the American Hat Company factory. Recently, we were able to make that happen. Of course, I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to film.
So we're here with Cody Bates. And what's your title here at American Hat?
VP of Operations.
Keith Mundy told us earlier that you are the man guiding the ship here. You are running the show.
Yes, sir.
So doing a lot of work, great work, and you guys are really busy right now, aren't you?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about you for just a minute.
Okay.
Where are you from originally?
Originally out of Arlington, Texas. Grew up there, went to high school there. I met my wife at a store I was working at, a Western store at the time. And I moved to Hill County, live around Hillsboro area, and got a place there and absolutely enjoy it. So I drive back and forth here every day, or every other day. I got a 2-hour trip to come to work, and I couldn't think of a better place to go to work. This is a phenomenal place.
So you told me earlier that you started working on hats at maybe 8 years old.
Yes, sir. So I had a grandfather that was a sales rep for Roper and Cowtown Boots, and so every now and then I get to go to the store with him during the summer, and we used to go into Foster's Western Wear there in Denton and go see Mark, and he had a lady that shaped hats. Her name was Shirley, and she was a phenomenal hat shaper, and people would come from all over to watch her shape. So I'd sit there and watch her shape, and I kind of got the bug from there. Then my dad, he shaped hats back in the younger days, and so he gave me a couple little pointers, and I learned by watching people and just by listening and trial and error.
And then, so you wound up at Best Hat Store?
I did. I worked for Sergeant's Western Wear for 5 years. We were bought out by BTWW, which is Boottown Western Warehouse at the time. I was transferred to a location in Grapevine. Then I was transferred to LeGrand Plaza. I worked at LeGrand Plaza for 3.5 years. The company was not doing very well at the time, and there was a bankruptcy coming, and I had shaped hats with a few fellows before, and I got a phone call and said, "Hey, I heard you need a job." And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm going to be needing one." And a friend of mine by the name of Bo, he says, "Why don't you come to the Best Hat Store?" So I started at Best Hat in October 2008, and it was me and one other guy that worked there, and worked there for 6 years, and had a blast. Got to meet a lot of cool people, shape a lot of really neat hats. I left for a little bit, did a little stint. I wanted to do something with my degree, so I went into the oil field with it. Then I said, okay, I've had enough of this. And so Danny Adams called, said, "Hey, I need you for a show." I said, "I'll be there tomorrow." So I went with Danny to the high school finals, and at that show, Keith Maddox and Keith Mundy said, "We would like you to join the team again as production manager for the factory." So I came. I've been here since 2015, and was recently promoted to VP of Operations.
Nice. Very impressive career in the hat industry, actually. You know, Best Hat's huge, and American Hats
Even bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
you know, some pretty great people in the industry too. So Joby speaks highly of you.
Yeah,
So.
Joby. Joby originally worked for Sergeant's Western Wear. Then he left and went to Cavender's. My entire career, me and Joby have kind of worked around each other. We became friends and have a good friendship, good relationship. And he's a phenomenal hat shaper. He does a fantastic job with his little store he's got there. And I'm proud of where we've been and where we came.
So, can you take me through maybe a typical day here at American Hat Company?
It starts early. So most mornings I'm up and ready to go by 4:30 in the morning. come in here, we get the factory open about 5, and we go to 4:30 in the afternoon. Employees don't start showing up till 7. So we've already got quite a bit of stuff ready to go for them before they walk in the door. But I truly enjoy what I do.
You're not having a shortage. I see there's plenty of hats out there, but a lot of your customers, the retailers, they're having a shortage.
Yeah, and we're having a shortage as well, just because of popularity. You know, our production goes up because people want hats. So anytime a manufacturer starts getting more and more orders, they got to make more and more hats, and the demands for hat bodies and materials and whatever you need to make that hat becomes very short supply, because you know they're feeding other people as well.
How long do you think it's going to be before everything's running smoothly again, and people can go out to their average retail store and be able to find an American hat?
Well, we're trying to get American hats into the stores as fast as we can. You know, we get materials in every day, and we're running as fast and as hard as we can. We're working extra hours, extra days. We've added more people, more machines. But time will tell. Time will only tell.
Okay. Fair enough. So how much does Yellowstone and Taylor Sheridan's other ventures play into you know, the sales and the maybe the demand at the moment for?
I think it plays a good little part in it. You know, back in the 80s, you had the urban cowboy phase, and I think now your modern time was Yellowstone. I think people are very interested in Western. You see more and more boots. You see more and more cinch and Wranglers and cowboy hats out there, and it's really good to see. I think people want to grow out of the baseball cap era and get into a real hat.
Yeah, that's right. So what drives production out there? Is the necessity of a specific product, or is it the supply that you have?
A lot of that. I could say all the above, really. You know, some styles, some years, and straws are more popular than others. Felt hat colors. You know, some years you do really well on chocolate hats, and some years you don't hardly sell any chocolate hats. Grizzlies, it's kind of that way too. Some years it's really big on those. Some years it's not so much. But I think that just all adds up to your supply and demand.
That 7800 is really popular right now. A lot of people are asking for it, and you know, I was lucky. I found one. I walked into Cavender's one day, and there's one sitting there in my size, and out the door it went with me. You know, and I haven't seen another one.
Right.
You know, and that's months now.
Yep.
So hopefully you guys get some of those out to us.
Hopefully so.
So what's the most popular hat overall? Is it straw or felt, or what do you sell the most of?
I would say definitely, you know, our felt hats. That's what our game really is. It's we want to be known for making the best felt hats in the industry. You know, typically our 40X is our most popular hat. It's a great sales point. It's a great hat. And really in a felt, that's where it really kicks off when you get into your nicer hats.
And so the 40X is kind of special because it's the starting point where you can actually have that brought back into the factory and have it remade completely once it's worn out.
You can have it refurbished. That's where it starts. You know, our 7Xs and 10Xs, they're the best that's in the industry. But your 40X is really where you step up and you say, okay, I'm ready to go to bat here, and you get to step into the 40X or higher, and you can send it to us and we can refurb the hat. So, you know, we don't just change out the leather and the liner, but we completely tear your hat back down from start, and it goes all the way back through the process just like we were making a new one. So when it comes out, it's the best it can possibly be.
And we talked about this off camera a little bit. That process can only be done a few times, though. Is that correct? It's kind of like a boot.
It's kind of like making boots, when you're talking about like a welting on a boot, there's only so many times you can make that round. And the reason being is you're sewing in your sweatband. And so that needle can only go around that hat so many times before it finally becomes too weak. And you can run a risk and maybe ripping your hat.
Can you give us just a brief overview of the different types of straw hats? I know you have the poly rope and you have the Bangora and
Shantung.
And so what are the I guess the key specific different types of straws?
So your most common straw is going to be your Shantung. That's what people really know. You can do different color patterns and different weaves in them as well that determine a straw hat. There's not an X rating, a true X rating for a straw, because there's no beaver content in that hat. But they do put an X in it because of the weave pattern. So you have tightness of weave, you have the material, whether it's Panama, Monte Cristi, Shantung, what is it? And that's what determines the price range of that hat. Straw hats can range anywhere from the $100 range and go all the way up to $1,000 range, if not more, depending on what material is used. Like your Monte Cristis, they're known for being a really high-end, one-of-a-kind type dress hats and a straw. But when you're talking about a cowboy, he wants a hat he's going to be able to wear to church. He's going to be able to wear it to his daughter's wedding. And he's going to be able to wear it out in the field, and it's going to hold up.
So, and that kind of brings me to another question about durability. My favorite American hat is the 500. It just has this beautiful feel.
Sure.
It's really thin. I love the look of it. It's just a great hat. Now, you make a 1000X hat.
Correct.
And that's a mix of beaver and mink, right?
Correct.
The 500 being all beaver belly.
Correct.
What is the durability difference? I know the 1000X is the most beautiful hat on the planet, and the 500 is considered the toughest hat on the planet. Right. What's the durability like in the 1000X?
It's very strong.
Really?
I have one of every color, the 1000X, 500X, and I'm one of the hardest people there is on a hat. I will torture test a hat on my own head, and I'll do things in them that you probably shouldn't do. But I wear a hat every day, and if I'm going to wear a hat, I'm going to pick the best hat I can. A craftsman is only as good as his tools. If you have cheap tools, you might round a bolt off, and might come apart on you when you don't need it to come apart, right? So I know that sounds crazy to spend that much money on a hat, but it's my livelihood. So I want to wear the best. So if I'm out ranching or farming, I'm going to have a nice hat. I'm only going to see people in maybe a establishment once, maybe twice. And so they can't tell the difference at night when it's a 100X or a 1000X. So I'd rather wear a 100X to the bar and wear a 1000X in the field.
Nice, very nice. Well, Cody, I want to thank you. I really want to thank you because a lot of people are going to see this video and it's probably going to be 10 or 15 minutes and they don't realize it's now 1:30 in the afternoon. We've been here since 10 o'clock in the morning and you have given us really the best access that I could have possibly hoped for.
Well, thank you.
And we really appreciate it, and these guys, they really should know what you've done here for us.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. We enjoy people coming in and seeing us and see what we're all about.
Great.
So
thank you
guys.
again.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, now let's check out the factory and see exactly how a hat is made.
So, the straw hat. This is how all of our straw hats will start off. This is what we call a raw body. You see the phrase here. Each one of those strands is about 3 foot long is when it starts off. Okay? They start off here in the top, and they hand weave every one of these straw hats. On average, it takes 2 to 3 days to hand weave one straw hat. So when we put a design on one, we start a year in advance, so we'll have enough bodies to cover it. Also, you have a glazed and a non-glazed body. We prefer a glazed. So a glaze, when you lacquer your hat, has a nice sheen to it. It's real pretty. A non-glaze will kind of have a duller, matted satin finish. And so we prefer a glaze. Gives it that real nice, rich look. Some of these bodies take up to a week to hand weave because there's so much starting and stopping with the patterns. Another thing too, it's like on some of our other hats, you'll find knots in some of the bottoms of the hats. Like a 1011, 1022, you can kind of feel a little knot. Looks like little quills, almost like you would on a ostrich boot. And what that is, that's where they tie into the material, where the material ends and they retie into it so they can start the pattern again.
So, right now I know the 7800 is very popular, and it's hard to get your hands on. Is that something where you did not anticipate maybe that its popularity is?
There's a big thing with hats right now. They're very popular. So the demand for hats goes up, so does the supply. And so everybody's trying to keep up with each other, and sometimes it gets a little difficult. So, but they will be back for sure. But
50-50?
50-50. Something else that's a little different is a Bangora. A Bangora is the only hat that's made on a loom. If you notice, there's hardly any frays at all on the outside. All your frays are on the inside. It's because it's made on a loom. Start here, finish here. And that's why in a Bangora, they're really thick on the top when you try to shape them. Also, another really cool hat, and it's our toughest hat that we make, for sure, especially in straw, is a poly rope, made out of polyurethane rope. So these hats here, they get a little different treatment to them than all the others, but by far, this is the toughest hat you can possibly work in. These things are amazing. We'll show you one that's completed and finished at the end.
And it's pretty light too.
Yeah, it's really light. A lot of people say, well, a palm leaf's a really good hat to wear when it's to work in. Well, they are tough, but they're extremely heavy and they don't breathe. And so when you're working out on a day like today, when it's 103, 104 out, you got that heavy palm on. Yes, you can soak them, but I don't want to soak my hat every time. I want something to start off comfortable at the beginning. So this is a great hat. And I highly recommend, if you're going to work outside, wear one of those. And I have a lot of people wear them for dress hats. They have a really cool design to them. And they're a great all-around hat. They sure are. Yep. So there is differences in straw hats. Like you go into some stores and you look at a straw hat, you say, okay, well, the Shantung here, it's $150. Then they have one that's a Panama, that might be $300. And you see a Monte Cristi, that might be $600. What makes up the difference in a straw? Okay, so you do have different weaves, you have different materials that are used. There's no true way to put an X inside of a straw hat. There's no beaver that goes into it. So you go by the different weaves and the patterns in that hat. Some of them are woven very tightly, they're very thin, they're very smooth hats. And those are what typically you'll see in a store that'll be higher. Your Panamas, that's an art. Those are woven very tight. It might take 2 or 3 weeks to hand weave one hat. Same thing on a Monte Cristi. And it's just the materials that are used. But there is different patterns. Some call it a boo. A boo is a type of weave that is done that's in the hat.
And so, what are all of these? These are like the 50/50 and
these
the
are all
70/100?
shantung straws. And
So these are all both
right.
the same?
And these here are the best you can wear for an everyday nice hat. You know, it doesn't just end here with us. We continue throughout. But as far as making a quality product, there's a lot of work that still goes into these hats in here. But a shantung is the best you can buy in a good, strong, sturdy hat. Okay, so felt body. So when we get it all ready, there's an X rating in a felt. Okay, so in that X rating, it's only within that company. Okay, so on a silver belly or a buckskin, we look and we feel all over the hat. We make sure the color is right. Make sure everything's nice, just like we want it. It's got smoothness. It's got the firmness that we need as well to make up that body. Okay, so there's differences in body. So you see a 7X to a 100X, then you see over 100X, right? So what's the difference in those hats? What's the makeup? So you have different fibers. So you have wool, rabbit, beaver, you might have mink, some use chinchilla. What's the difference in fibers and what makes them better than others, okay? Well, your wool and your rabbit is a straight-haired product, okay? The wool, we want to try to cut out completely of your hat because it's real thick, it's real straight. When it's processed, it breaks down very fast and separates. That's why your hat gets to being droopy and saggy and will not hold shape. You know, you see this magical cure of stiffener that people spray on their hats, okay? If your hat's got a lot of wool in it, typically it goes back to being soft. And you can use a lot of stiffener, but at some point it's going to go back. So you try to subtract all your wool that you can out of your hat, and you add beaver, and you add rabbit into it. Beaver, if you look at it under a microscope, okay, it's got little barbs all over the hair. It's got little hooks. So when it's processed, it locks together and it stays locked together. So it never really separates. So it's almost like the little finger locks you played with as a kid. So it just, tighter you pull, the harder it gets, okay? So you get, in a 7X, you'll get a blend of beaver and rabbit all the way till you get a 100X. And you go, okay, well, if it's a 100X, wouldn't that mean it's 100% pure? Yes, okay? But it's kind of like on your full quill ostrich boots. You see a full quill ostrich, or you see a smooth ostrich boot, okay? What do you prefer? A lot of people like the top, that real pretty, and that's really where it shows its beauty is in those quills, okay? So your scrap leather is your smooth leather for your boot, right? Okay. So in a beaver, you have 3 different levels of fur. You have a top, you have a mid, and you have a lower. All right. Well, you can also get a cut from the belly as well, and that is where your high-end hats start. It's very smooth, it's very supple, and it's a great material to use to make those higher end because it's so nice and smooth. Okay. Grizzlies. A lot of people say, "What is a grizzly hat made out of?" Okay, that's the top coat of the beaver. That's not anything else. That's what normally maybe would have got discarded into something else, like maybe making a jacket, the downing for a jacket or something. But that is the top coat of a beaver's felt, okay? The mid-grade, you use that in other things as a blend. Some do, some don't. But your finer down makes a better hat in the long run.
So what X factor is this here that we're
So this would be a 40X quality hat.
40X, okay.
Which is our most popular everyday quality. But you know, you see mink, okay? You say, what's the difference in a mink hat and a beaver hat? Okay, it's 100% beaver, okay, but it's the belly, and mink added to it. Mink is one of the best feeling fibers there is, okay? Some people prefer chinchilla, some do mink. We prefer mink. It's just, to us, it's the best you can feel. It is, it's an awesome fiber to use in a hat. It makes for one of the best hats I've ever seen. So, Keith Maddox and Susan Maddox and Keith Mundy, they said, let's make the best hat in the world. And I'm pretty sure they did right there. So I've got one of every color, and I absolutely love them.
The 1000X.
1000X. Yeah. They're a beautiful, beautiful hat.
Wow. One of every color.
One of every color. So they are fantastic.
Yep.
Okay. So every day we bring the orders in, we pull the raw bodies. These guys here, their job is to separate them out. They separate them by order, brim size, and size of hat, and what wire is going to go into the hat. So this is what we call first press. So they're going to take that hat, they're going to stretch it, they're going to wet it, put it to their saddle. These here are saddles, and it's a hard rubber. There's an aluminum die inside that machine, okay, that takes the form, whether it's open crown or pre-shape. Once they have that hat set over that saddle, they'll put it in there, they'll lock the machine in place, and when it comes out, it'll be in there for a couple minutes. It comes out nice and smooth, the vent's nice and straight. The blueprint from the ticket gets put into the back of the hat. So you got your size, your brim size, and the wire that we're going to use inside of that hat. And that will get lacquered inside your hat. And so that always stays in the back of your straw hat. So we do that for a couple of reasons. One is to help us to track it through the factory. And two is when you, the consumer, wears the hat, you really, really like your hat. You might have worked in the hat a lot, and everything's wore off, and you don't remember what size it is. The retailer can go in, pull that leather down, and say, I see what size you are. I know what brim it is. I'll get you another one just like it. That's where that pays off. After this step, it goes into our lacquer room. We hand lacquer that hat one time, comes out. We'll cut the brim down so all these frays go off. We'll sew the wire into it, and it gets its second coat of lacquer. Okay, a lot of times companies use alcohol or water-based lacquers. We use a petroleum-based lacquer. Our hat, when it's done, is pretty much water-resistant, waterproof, however you want to use that. You can get it rained on, you get mud on it, and as long as that lacquer's in good condition on your hat, you can wipe it off. Some of your other lacquers, after a couple days, you get them wet, like your alcohol or your water-based lacquers, you start to feel a chalky feel on the edge of your hat. You say, man, my hat's dirty. Not so much that it's dirty, it's that lacquer that's breaking down. So that's why we use a different lacquer than everybody, because we don't want that breakdown. If you bought a hat, I want to give you 110% out of your hat. So I'll show you the cutting process, and I'll show you the brim welting process.
Okay.
Hey, Anna, you want to cut one for us? Maybe. So Anna hand cuts every straw hat that comes through.
Just one person cutting?
One person. That way they're consistent.
Okay, so every hat.
Every hat.
That's pretty
And we
cool.
do have a machine that we use, but we prefer to use a manual device, and makes for a really nice cut on a hat. Hannah's been here for about 8-9 years now, and she does every one.
So is there a gauge that says?
Yeah, she has a measuring device that's on there.
So you just do one size at a time, size brim?
Yeah, so if you have like 4-inch brim, you can run 4, 4 1/4, 4.5, up to a 5.
Got it.
Pretty amazing. Lydia over here, she'll sew the wire into your hat. I tried doing this one time.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm not good at this game. This is a way faster machine than I like. But she's an expert. So if you notice when she's sewing around this hat that we don't tack weld our wire, we overlap. And that's a little different than some other people when they make hats. But when your hat takes an impact, that allows that wire to stay in place and add more structure to your hat.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, so after the hat is cut, it's sewn, it's lacquered for the second time, it comes out and gets pressed for the final press. So this is where we run by and we fill these hats, make sure they're nice and smooth, there's no bumps in the lacquer, and we check them to make sure they're good to go. And this is where Tavia, our department supervisor, she comes by and she examines the hats. Everybody here at American Hat, oh, I know, my bad, is an inspector. So every one of them check, make sure there's no flaws in the hat, make sure it is what it is before it leaves out of this department. Also, in the trim line itself, every sewer is also an inspector. Jesse over there, he's doing our RCs, which is our newest shape.
It's the new what?
It's our newest shape, our newest form. If you do want a pre-shape, it's a great hat. Right there, nice.
So he's doing the factory press on that?
Correct.
And does that just do the crown, or does that do the whole hat?
It does the crown and brim.
At one shot?
In one shot.
Can we see that?
Yeah.
Hey.
There it is. That's in the first press state. Okay. Cool.
Now, are these blocks all size specific, or?
Yes, they're all size specific. I'll take you back out here and we'll kind of loop back around. So during the day, everything gets pushed to our leather departments. And from here, it'll get its leathers. Then it'll be reeded. Then it'll go to our sewers.
So are you mentioned felts and straws all year round?
Felt and straw year round, nonstop. You know, used to, we would have almost a little bit of a season where there was kind of a little bit of a lull period. And now there's not that lull period. So we're building felts just as fast as we're building straws nowadays. Now I say this, there is more time that goes into a felt hat versus a straw. So for every 4 or 5 straws you got to make a felt hat to counterbalance it, right? So I've got to push those felts year round. The increase in straws and felts right now is amazing. Every year we've had an increase, but last couple of years it's really grown. A little help to that, some of that Taylor Sheridan Yellowstone, and was kind of liking that gig. But beautiful show, amazing, good people on it. I think just around the nation in general, we got a big influx in Western wear again, which is very nice to see.
And you think that, how much do you think Yellowstone is playing into that influx?
I think it plays a part in everything. I'm not going to say that's everything, but it does play a good role in it.
And you guys are participating in the Yellowstone project too. You're supplying hats now, or?
We are doing hats for some of the Yellowstone, absolutely. It's a pretty neat deal.
So do you do the finished product? Do you do the entire shape and maybe
We do
distressing?
finished product and shaping.
Distressing, or is that maybe?
That's done somewhere else.
Okay.
But if they call for it, we will do it. Yeah. I'll take you to the felt. So what this is a finger blocker. You've got 36 finger machines, you've got 32 teeth machines. So each one of these teeth pull evenly. If one doesn't pull even, your hat will be off, okay? This is where you get your brim size. This is where you get your crown height, the size of your hat, and the oval. All over that block. When it comes out, you'll see these finger marks on the hat, and that's where it grabs down on the edge of the brim and stretches that hat out. And that's just water.
Okay.
That'll come right out. Then you have plating.
So and this is the ticket that goes on the outside of the box.
Correct.
So it follows the hat.
It will follow the hat. Yep. So this is your blueprint for your hat.
And the one inside is kind of a mirror image to that?
Right, and that's the bottom portion of that ticket.
Okay, now, there you go.
So your blueprint stays with your hat, so it's made just how you like it.
So this one goes inside.
Correct. Nice hat. All day long.
Will that get cleaned or trimmed, or how does that?
Okay, so this will all come off.
Yeah.
Next step from here is plating. So what plating is, it gets sandwiched in between 2 hot plates, and that tightens those fibers back up. So you just stretched your hat out, okay, to get your size and your brim, but you want to stretch everything and condense it, right? So I condensed it back because you're going to overstretch your hat, and that way you get the brim. So we make everything tight again and have that nice pop to it. So when they come off, they're just like these here. They've got a lot of body to them. You know, some companies, they have certain time frames on their hats when they plate them. We don't use a time frame. When it's done, it's done. And it'll come out to be good crap.
That's underneath.
Oh, you're fine. So,
Pretty impressive because when we first got here, we couldn't even spell hat.
yeah. You had to spot the H and the T.
He's forgotten more about hats than most people know.
He seems pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Hey, see the feather?
Yeah, I saw it. But, you know, the plating is where a lot of your differences come from in a hat. If plating is not done properly, when you go to steam a hat, you'll see it down the edge of the brim and it'll ripple, okay? Maybe because the hat's too thin or whatnot, it didn't get sandwiched like it needs to be. Sometimes, if it's not plated correctly, you'll see that nice droop in that hat and you're going, something's not right here, boys. So we try to wait till that hat is completely finished before we send it to the next process. So that way you're getting 110% out of your hat. You can also see along the back wall, we have some RCs. I've got some new machines back there. Trying to expand for the growth. We've hired a lot of new people, added a lot of new machines. You know, and I came here to the factory as production manager in 2015. They said, we want X amount of hats out a day. Okay, we got a lot of room here. And they said, right. So what about this? Well, if you can do it, we'll build it. So away we went. And now we're pushing the door to almost 100 employees. It's an amazing thing to watch. It makes you very proud at the end of the day.
Generally, a factory this small isn't such a big player in the game. So it's amazing that, you know, I've been in several industries for many years that are kind of high output, and you know, they're big names. So when you see a small factory like this, nobody usually knows their name. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, you know, and I think that goes back to keeping systematic. Quality, quality, quality. Not quantity, but quality. We had Keith here, and Keith would walk through the floor every day and check hats out, and he'd say, Cody, what do you think about this one? Wow. And I learned so much out of Keith Maddox, just in his knowledge with hats. My goodness, the guy was phenomenal. He says, I've got a guy by the name of Andre Trevino, and he was our hat maker for 50 years. He says, I'd like for Andre to come and maybe work with you. Andre came. Andre was an amazing hat maker. You know, I learned a lot from him. There was a lot there to be taught. So, you know, I had an idea coming into the factory of what to expect, and I knew how to make hats, but I didn't truly know how to make hats, so I came to American Hat Company. And you know, the quantity game wasn't here; it was the quality game. So that was cool to see.
I know that guy.
Yeah, so this is Mitch, our expert presser on felts here.
What's up, bro?
Hey, buddy.
Mitch is an awesome guy. So Mitch runs all these presses. Mitch is going to put your open crown in it. You know, an open crown is a blank canvas. You know, I kind of look at it as a painting. So this is waiting for a picture to be put on it. So whether you like a cattleman, a minute, CHL, maybe you get really creative and you want something a little different. You know, that right there is your blank canvas to start a tradition in your house. You know, a cowboy hat, and a great cowboy hat, is an heirloom. You know, I've got hats that were my grandfather's, and I've got hats that were my father's. And maybe one day I'll get to pass down one of mine. And so I'd love them to have one of these.
You've got all kinds of different colors of tickets here. Is that
So different colors mean different things. You know, that's kind of what it is. If somebody's got a wedding hat and they need it fast, you know, and they put their order in, generally we would have said, okay, let's bring that order forward. And so it's a different color. Sometimes it's one color. It says it's an as ready order, so as they come in, send them to me. Maybe somebody says, hey, I know I ordered my hats, but I want them later. Okay, so we'll do that as well. Right now, we have a little bit of a backlog, so everything is kind of a rush right now. So we're trying to get hats out as fast as we possibly can. You know, we're still real small, but we still want to give you 110% out of your product. We don't want a product to leave out of this factory that is not right. So this is our finishing department that's out here. So you'll see machines and you'll go, what kind of machine is that? So you have a crown pouncer. So a crown pouncer, it takes the long fibers off the top of the crown, gets down to that real nice layer of fur. Then you have a brim sander, which is this machine here, and it gets down to the real nice layer in the brim. And we hand finish every one of our hats that come through this line. This is a true art. Felt hat making is it's like nothing else.
Kind of like really fine grit sandpaper, or I get it. Just roughly, I didn't know if it's like, are we talking about taking a lot of material off or just a little? So I'm assuming.
No, it's really not all that much in the long run. But
Okay.
This machine here
Here's part of it.
Really cool machine. It's from the 1800s.
Really?
Yeah, we still use it every day. It's a brim sander. And this here's its little brother, this machine here.
$100X.
Let me pull some of this for you. Okay, so we're going to make up your leather. We're going to hand cut them this size. We're going to put gold foil in it. We're going to put our logo in it, whether it's a premium mink or if it's Joe's Boots. We can put Joe's Boots, or we can put Cavender's, Boot Barn, whoever, your store logo in that hat. Or if you really want a nice custom touch, we can also put your name into the hat. You know, made especially for it. We've done some pretty amazing hats over the years for pretty amazing people. You know, we were offered some things with one of our presidents of the United States. We got to make a hat for. We've made hats for governors, singers, movie stars, and some of the top rodeo cowboys and cowgirls in the industry. And it's an amazing thing to, even if you just get to see the leather. You know, you might not get to meet them, and you look down and you go, wow, that's pretty cool. So we're getting to make a hat. And these people take a lot of pride in what they do, you know, and that's always our main focus. We want people taking pride, and we want happy employees. Okay, once we stamp your leather, there's the view. So you have your American and your star or your quality. You got your genuine leather. The next step is reading. And so this is what makes up those stitches. The reading on the back side, that's what allows us to attach this leather to the inside of your hat. So it's sewn in there. Also, you have a little wire that's inside of this edge. And that wire is the size retainer for your leather. You know, you see a lot of people, and they may get a hat and it ends up shrinking, and they say, well, pull that out. Well, once you pull it out, your hat gets even smaller. So in the long run, it does feel good at first, maybe a week or two. First real good time you sweat in it, you put it back on the shelf, come back, you go, wow, what happened? It looks like you got an instant face feel. Pull that out right there. From here, it'll go to back sew. And back sew is the piecing together of the two ends of the leather. It'll look a lot like this here.
So where it gets the bow too?
That's where it gets the bow.
Is that bow functional?
It's to resemble the back of the hat.
Okay.
Okay. There is some stories how the bow came about. Not sure if they're exactly true or not, but it does indicate the back of your hat. Next step is sweat sew. And this is where they're gonna sew that sweatband into the hat. These ladies here, they do the straws. You got some ladies over there do the felts. So, she's my sweat sew ninja.
Hi. A ninja, huh? Got it.
If you watch her, you'll
Watch
find
this.
out.
All right. Where's a good angle? Right here?
Yes. Oh, if you want to get closer together, it's better talk.
It is an art to run a sweat sew machine.
The marks are.
It's an art to run one of those.
Is it?
Yep. And she gets it really, very nice and smooth over the top. Don't have any highs and lows. It's perfect. You see on the inside where it's attached. Very nice. Okay, so people say, you see the felt on a felt hat for a hat band.
Yep.
Where does that come from? Okay, so for every dozen hats, you have to make a baker's dozen. You finish that 13th hat just like you would all your others. And at the end of the process, you cut it down to make hat bands. Okay?
No kidding.
Yep. So, and they have to be made at the same time. If not, you can run a chance of a color change in hue of your hat. So sometimes you'll see a hat band and you go, it's not exactly right. So we'll try to make another one. If not, we'll make another hat completely, another rack. So we find some that match perfect. Now, in your 100Xs and up, that is an actual cut down from the brim of your hat that makes up the hat band. These ladies here, they hand skive all of these. They put them on, they sew them on. It's a pretty amazing thing.
So this is getting a hat band now?
Yes, and a lot of our buckles are sterling silver, some are gold. And when it's done, it'll look just like this here.
And then it's sewn on, right?
Yes, it will be sewn on.
Will be sewn on.
It also gets our American hat flag.
It gets the who's actually making? She's actually making the band itself, putting the buckle on the.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's a functioning buckle too. I mean,
the most part. Yep.
Yeah. So. A lot of them just look that way, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to have a lady inside a Best Hat store. And I used to have to make trim for her because we used to make some hats in the back room. And she would come with the hat and say, okay, I need this one cut down. I need it cleaned up so I can make hat bands. So I got to learn how to do that. And then she would pull me back and I'd get there early in the morning because I was really intrigued on how she did it. And so I'd sit there with her and she would make those hat bands up, and that's kind of where I learned how to do that. It was pretty neat. Then we sew each and every one of these bands on. Goes to tacking. Then from tacking, it comes up here to hot block. And hot block is the smoothing of the leather. That way we make sure it's nice and pretty, and it's also the final sizing of your hat. And we hand size each and every hat that comes through the line. Doesn't matter if it's felt or straw, every one of them gets hand sized. It goes to inspection, then shipping. Once it's boxed up, it'll go to the warehouse.
So you get some different sized boxes there. Are those for the smaller?
Yeah, so you have some boxes, that are for your standard 4 1/4 brim. Then you have some bigger boxes, like this one here.
I guess I've only ever seen the larger boxes.
Yeah, so the larger boxes will fit a 4 1/2 and up. So then your regular box will fit a any size brim up to a 4 1/4.
Cavender's only buys like 4 1/2, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot of people like 4 1/2. Some places like 4 1/4.
Hey, you can make it 4 1/4.
But
out
you
of
can make
a
it
4 1/2. I think
4
that's like Cavender
Yeah,
does it.
and that's pretty nice thing to do, 'cause it cuts down on your cost. But yeah, so from inspection, it goes to shipping. From shipping, it goes to our warehouse where it's stored until it's ready to go. Hello, Andy. So then we'll make our full circle out to the warehouse again.
I spent several days with factory employees in this trip. I can tell you that every person who works at American Hat Company loves what they do. These people are truly dedicated to making the best hat possible. It's really refreshing to meet people who actually love what they do and who are really appreciative that you enjoy the products they make.